Hi, this is Jeremy Iverson with Colectica, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate the web portal that Colectica repository provides. I want to show some of the types of information that the portal makes accessible, show how to browse and search for information to discover what you're looking for, and show some of the different visualizations and other capabilities that the web portal provides. So to start, I am on the MIDAS portal. MIDAS is a longitudinal study run out of the University of Wisconsin. It stands for Midlife in the United States. They've been collecting data since the mid-90s in a few different rounds, and in each round they have several projects. So one of the projects is survey data. They also collect cognitive data, biomarker data, and even some neuroscience data from brain scans from some of their respondents. So they've documented all of this data using DDI and put that content, that metadata, into Colectica repository. And the web portal that we're looking at here is just off-the-shelf Colectica repository, letting us browse and search that information. So to jump in, let's just pick from MIDAS 2, Project 1. Let's look at the study documentation and see what's there. We'll see we have some high-level information like the title and abstract. We have links to various PDFs that they've linked to, and also a link to the data file description. They also link to that from the homepage, and if we wanted to go and browse the variables from this project, we can click through and do that. They're organized by mode, so phone or self-administered questionnaire, and within that by category. So if we're interested in living arrangements, we could click that and see just the variables that have to do with different living arrangements. So for example, whether you've ever lived in an institution, if we select a variable, we'll get a lot of details that the MIDAS folks have provided. So of course the variable name and label, but also the question text in this case, skip logic, and the frequencies too. So I mentioned MIDAS being a longitudinal study, which means of course that they've collected the data several times. One of the neater views in Colectica Portal, I think, is the concordance view, where, we're looking at this variable named B1, PE1 in the MIDAS 2 Project 1 dataset. But with this table, we'll also see that MIDAS has collected the same data 7 times in these different datasets, MIDAS 1, MIDAS 2, MIDAS 3, and so on. And we can see some comparative frequency displays and comparative descriptive statistic displays as well. So if you're not familiar with MIDAS, you might not want to jump into a single data set, of course, because you're not sure what data sets they have. Another option is to use the Explore view, and that's especially useful if you want to browse by topic instead of by individual study. So the Explore view for MIDAS, they've organized, again, by their kind of modes or projects. So if we're interested in the survey data and we're interested in caregiving, we can browse and drill down into that. We can select one of these, and in the first column of this concordance table, we'll see all the things that they've measured over time. So given personal care to others in the last 12 months, they've measured this many times, one for each column in the different data sets. We can get that similar comparative view that we saw earlier by clicking the link and popping it up. Or if we wanted to get the specifics on any individual variable in a specific data set, we could click those links too. So I'll click around a little bit and see some different tables. So in living arrangements here, one of the nice things is not just the cells that are filled in, but also the cells that are blank tell a story. They say that in MIDAS 1, we did not collect whether they lived in a boarding school, but starting in MIDAS 2 and going forward, we did collect that. So you can see where different data starts and stops being available in the different data sets. Let's see, I'm going to pop open the details here again and look at the comparative display. So besides the comparative frequencies, we also have this code comparison, and that'll show how something is measured differently in different data sets. In this case, it's basically the same. Yes is 1, 2 is no. There's a little bit of a difference in this missing data, but essentially it's all the same. Sometimes that can be super important. So if we go over to the health area, I know there's a variable self-evaluated physical health where we're using the same scale every time, poor through excellent, but if we look at the code comparison, we'll see in the underlying data that in MIDAS 1, poor was 1, excellent was 5, but from MIDAS 2 going forward, it went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So a total reverse coding. And so that's something that having structured metadata, like the structured metadata in DDI that's in the Colectica repository, can really help call out. I actually made a report for the Midas folks that showed all the cases where there were substantive differences in the code lists across waves, and they were able then to add these comparability notes to their metadata so that if anybody's looking at this documentation for any of these variables, whether it's on the web here or in one of their PDF codebooks, those comparability notes about the Midas 1 version being reverse coded are going to be available to them. All right, so one other feature of Portal that I like to show with Midas is the basket. So the idea behind a basket is that you can keep track of variables or other items that are interesting to you. So I have some items in my basket already. If you want to add items to your basket, you can do that either from the search page. When you find some variables that are interesting, you can just click the basket icon next to it and it will add it to that. Now I've got one more. Or from the Explore page as well. If you are looking at any of the variables here, you can click the basket there and it will add all the variables in that row. So once you've built up a basket, you can do a few things. So one is it serves as a list of things you're interested in, and that can be nice to reference and to click through to see the details later again. By default, baskets are private, but you can actually make them public if you want to link to these, provided as a citation or something like that. You can provide a persistent ID and other citation information as well, if you like. Another thing you can do with a basket is to download custom metadata that just has information about these 17 variables in this case. That's super useful because the full Midas codebooks are thousands of pages long. They have like 26 different data sets or so with 20 to 30,000 variables in all. And so, you know, a 5,000 page PDF isn't too useful, but if we make a codebook just for the variables in my basket, we get a nice 19 page codebook, which is much nicer to deal with. And of course you get all the information from the content in the repository about each variable there, including the frequencies and other descriptive statistics, the question text, everything that's there. And the last thing you can do with a basket, and most of our customers actually don't enable this, but it is an option. If you ingest your data into a data index, we can actually create custom data extracts based on the variable list in your basket. So if I want to download just these 17 variables, I can choose to get them in CSV or SPSS format. And again, it's going to make me an SPSS file in this case with just the variables that I selected, along with some identifier variables that are configured on the server. And those are what are used to merge the rows across the different data sets. So that can be a big time saver for researchers. So instead of needing to download the 8 or 9 different data sets that these variables might have come from, they just get the one data set and they don't have to write the merging code and the dropping code for all the other variables and all that. And of course, when it's SPSS, we can put in some metadata into that data set. So things like the variable label, the name, of course, but also the label, and then the value labels as well, and missing value codes too. All right, so that's Midas, and that's available at midas.colectica.org. So it's a public portal that you're welcome to check out on your own. They do request that you register with an email address, but you can do that for free. There's no charge or anything. So this is a useful site to work with just to learn about the different capabilities of the portal. So I'm going to show another public portal as well. This is the Closer Discovery Portal, run by a group called Closer out of the UK that's working on documenting and harmonizing 10 or so, 20 now, of the different British cohort studies and other longitudinal studies out of the UK. So they link to all these studies from their homepage. As background, again, this is also just Colectica repository and the web portal it provides running out of the box. It looks a little bit different, you'll notice, but that kind of shows some of the customization you can do with the theme and the colors and all that. So you can make it fit your own branding and styles if you like. But the same software is running this underneath. So yeah, I clicked through the study description again, and we can find some more information about that. We can find information about the individual waves of the 1970 British cohort study. In this case, we could drill into those to learn a bit more about what information they're providing, what data they have available, all of that. So going back to their homepage, the main thing I wanted to show on this portal was the search capabilities. So they've got the search box configured to be on the homepage. So if we're interested in data about smoking, let's say, we can just use that to type smoking and hit enter. It is going to come back with variables and questions. Let's say I'm only interested in the variables right now, so I can uncheck that facet and click refine to bring down the number a little bit. Maybe I'm familiar a bit with the contents of the repository and I only want to see things from the 1970 British cohort study. And maybe I'm only interested in things about adolescent smoking. So I can refine those down to get a smaller number of results. So here's a variable up top, smoking behavior. It doesn't tell us a whole lot, but we can see that it's from the 1970 British cohort study and specifically from the COVID-19 survey in 2020. And in that data set that's specified in the breadcrumbs there. So to see more information, I can click through on that and we'll see the frequencies and other details that they provided. The source questions is an interesting one to look at. So they've actually specified, like Midas did, the source questions in the surveys that gathered this data. And so the variable label smoking behavior isn't too informative really. It helps us a little bit, but if we really want to learn how these data were gathered, we can look at the source questions and see the exact question text that was asked in the survey, see what the exact response options were as well. And we can see what was asked immediately beforehand and immediately afterwards, because sometimes that context matters. We can also click through to see the entire survey. So they've documented the full survey and that's in the repository. So I can click through and we'll get sort of a flowchart view of that, which we can drill into and see there's many different sections of the survey. Let's drill into the caring section. We'll see there's some display logic. So we'll ask some questions and then maybe we'll ask some more based on previous answers. And again, this is looking at a survey and the questions, but of course we can click through to these. So it's asking in this random question I'm picking, how many hours did you usually sleep each week before the outbreak? We can click through on that to see all the question details, which is going to include any links to related variables. So variables that have their data that come from this question. And we get those frequencies, or we can click through to see the extra details about that variable in that data set. And of course, we're in the data set now. We could go get more information about that data set if we like as well, including where to download it if we want to. All right, so that is a brief overview of just a couple of live Colectica portals, Colectica repositories with their web portal. You can also browse this one on your own. It's at discovery.closer.act.uk. And you'll notice that this one is running on their own domain. This one is running under colectica.org. You've got the option to host it on your own infrastructure, which most of our customers do, or we do also provide cloud hosting for it. So where you host it is totally up to you. We support both scenarios equally. In another video, I'm going to demonstrate a bit about Colectica Designer, which is one of the tools that you can use to prepare the information to publish to the repository so that it's available for browsing and for discovery on the web like this. So to learn a bit more about that, check out that video, and thank you for watching.